See if this worked this time. Hello everyone, and welcome. Let me make sure my audio is okay for you guys. Oh yeah, beautiful. Yeah, Josh had to remind me that I wasn't live. Always a tech issue, am I right? Anyways, hi everyone, I'm Timothy von Rueden, better known as vonnart online, and today I'm diving back into digital as a little freehand exercise. I've been kind of tempted to go back into digital next year and kind of do more color stuff again. I've been doing pencil for so long, and I feel like as I'm making this giant art book at the moment, I just feel like I miss doing some of my color work, and I kind of want to get back into it, but I have to admit to myself that I have to kind of relearn digital. So if any of you also want to do this study with me, I put a reference link below, and this stream will be a recorded one that will be on my YouTube later. So if you're watching in the future, just know you can still download the reference if you want to work alongside me. I thought this would be a perfect reference because I keep this pig, and this is from the Tonko House short, The Dam Keeper. And yesterday I caught him in the middle of golden hour, and it had a really good reference study for warm lighting and cool shadows. And I was like, this is beautiful. So I took a picture of it, and I'm going to be using it as the subject matter for today. Hello everyone. And if you guys have any comments or questions during the live stream, feel free to ask. Just put @vonnart before it. That way I can see it as I'm going between the drawing here and the comment section, which is far to my right. Actually, I might move this a little over. Let me move this here. Okay. So, this is an interesting experiment for me as well. I have been very intrigued, like I said, to get back into digital, and I've been listening to this audiobook called Ego is the Enemy, and it's doing a really good job at basically calling me out for a lot of things that I've been feeling the last couple years, and especially with Instagram basically coming to a halt. And things have just been very strange for me on the back end, especially with the tarot series. It seems like people are either on board with the tarot deck that I'm making or completely turned off because they think it has like demonic associations. And I've never had that kind of dichotomy before with my user base or my fan base, and it's been really strange. And then even me personally, pencil has been feeling like I've been just kind of rinse, wash, repeating a lot of the same type of work. And it's been fun at times, but I think I've been just intrigued to do more, something different. And I think this is going to be kind of a study that I want to explore a lot more next year. But part of what I was mentioning in the book is it talks about the worst thing you can create for yourself is a reputation, and you focus too much on the work that you've done in the past and rely on that to give you rewards in the present and the future. And I think I have specifically done that because it feels like I've been drawing for so long. I feel like the accolades should come easier for me. Like I should be able to draw this, or I should be able to do something. And that kind of pressure can be a very negative stigma over time. So I'm sucking up my own ego, I'm swallowing my pride, and I'm just kind of admitting that, yes, digital is way different than when I learned it 13, 14 years ago, maybe even more, it's about 14 years ago when I was in college. And back then it was very much, if you saw this, you would paint it kind of like how you would a traditional painting. Nowadays, though, digital artists and modern artists in general are very quick and they're very efficient. It's a lot of the selection tool, paint bucket, and gradient, and I'm not used to that. So I am trying to essentially relearn digital and try to put into practice some of these new techniques. So today with this pig, I downloaded this artist's brush pack. Oh, you know what? I should have written down the artist's name. Hold on. It is Yu Ming, and they did, here, let me open up one of their examples. So I went to their Gumroad, and I actually purchased their tutorial and their brushes, and this is kind of the style that they create. But as you can see, if you zoom in, it's kind of like an oil painting in real life traditional, where it's clearly not refined. It's very, very loose, soft edges. There's a lot of paint strokes that are just kind of left behind. And what's crazy to me is I don't think in this way. I always like zoom in on digital paintings and I clean it up and I try to tighten the edges as much as possible. But I think I have to just pull back and remember that it's the idea of the piece and the feeling behind the piece that matters more than if every nook and cranny is tight and edged off. Because sometimes when you render too much, it kind of gives the impression of over rendering, or like it ruins some of that fluid ambiguity. I know there's a word in there somewhere. Ambiguity? That's it, ambiguity. And I think I'm so used to refining everything that I gotta like let go. I gotta shake that off, that feeling, that sense of like control, but like over controlling in a sense. So that is gonna be my challenge for myself on today's streams. And like I said, if you want to join me and draw this pig alongside, I put the link below. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. But before I do, let me see who's all here. Hey Hannah, is this Hannah from Seattle? Hannah, hello. Elena says hello. Really need to finish this giant peony. Oh yes, I saw it in the Discord. And I should mention I do have a Patreon, and I have a exclusive Discord channel that a lot of my fans follow, and they have conversations a lot. They post their work, and I show everything of mine from start to finish. Actually, I've been working on my temperance drawing that I have in front of me, and I have 3 other drawings I'm working on at the same time. I just finished one this morning, so I'll post that on Instagram and Twitter tonight. Something I learned about myself, I don't like having a lot of drawings going on at the same time. I thought I did. I think after I've been reading Atomic Habits, I don't think I do anymore. Anyways, I'll stop rambling. Let me get into this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to tackle the background. So I'm going to try to separate the subject matter of the pig and the background essentially into 2 layers. Let me work. I'm going to try only using these new brushes. We'll see how they work. I'm very curious. Oh, I don't like that has a texture as much to it. I don't even know if I like that. So one of the things that a lot of modern artists do now is they kind of lay out the basis first. So here I'm going to lay out, and I'm just going to make the background appear just brown, that kind of dark brown. I'm not going to do the cat tower. But then this bottom part, which is the desk, I'm going to kind of place some of these colors here. And like I said, this is very opposite of how I used to digital paint. So if you see me struggling a little bit during this, you'll understand why. But I think a good part of learning new strategies and new techniques is just being like, okay, I don't know exactly if this is the right way to do it, but I'm going to learn through failing. There's a joke that me and my friends have. The only L's I take are learning lessons. And I try to apply that to my art life as well. Just because I think it's very true, but I think it's very easy to forget that as you create more of a establishment for yourself. It's definitely a double-edged sword, as they say. Hello everyone, and Josh is here. Josh is my lovely hubby-to-be, and he will be moderating as well as making sure there's no tech issues during the stream, because I typically have one. At least one, typically. So now, here's a good example where I'm pretty sure to get this kind of sharp edge down here, what I think I'm supposed to do is literally lay out my soft edge brush and then grab the eraser tool and then cut into it. Now, mind you, this is not typically how I would have done this before. I typically would have actually painted, like zoomed in and painted that shape. But now it's either doing this or literally doing the selection tool. I might save that for another video because I want to watch more tutorials on that before I dive into it. But then something interesting is I could lock that layer, and then I could grab an even lighter white, like there, and then I guess it barely does anything. Hold on, let me double that. wait 1 sec. Let me erase that part first. So what's weird is when you lock the layer, basically you can't paint. It's kind of like masking, the masking tool. You can't paint outside or inside of it, but you can then take these gradients here and kind of fill in that area. Let me get that area behind. You see how we're kind of creating and mimicking that look? So definitely very weird. It's very weird for me to approach digital painting from this angle. But we're gonna try, and I'll definitely show you with the pig, because I did a little test run yesterday, and it was very uncomfortable for me, I have to admit. Okay, I'm gonna make a new layer here. So I'm gonna create that cut in the background of the table here. Oh, actually, no, that's not how I should be doing it. I should be first, I'm gonna pull that, I'm gonna make this pretty definitive here. Okay, so the new way I want to think about doing this is literally make a new layer on top of this, grab that brown color, and we're gonna go more of a hard edge brush. I'm gonna slice right through. I don't want it to be super crisp because I want there to be some depth perception or a little of the blurriness happening. And it's weird, I have a light like right in front of my face. I'll probably have to rearrange my desk a little bit just so I can see better, because I don't want to be digital painting with a bright light like right in my eyes. Because then I look at the monitor over there, I'm like, man, I can't even see the lighter spots. But anyways, what I can do then from here is literally lock that layer, and then let's say we wanted like this lighter brown on this side. Oh, wait, I gotta make this darker first. I don't necessarily like the hard edge brush that was in this pack. Let me at least fill this space in first. So the very long way of getting to this point is having that solid background, and then I can lock it, and then if I want to throw in some of these gradients, it's really easy to do so. Now, like I said, I'm going to keep the background kind of more on the blurry side, just because I don't want that to be the focus. I want there to be some depth of field, like I mentioned. Man, on the screen here, the entire background looks brown, like a dark brown, but then on my OBS monitor on my other screen, you can definitely see like the gray and then the light brown in the corner. That's something I definitely have to look into. Anyways, let's start tackling or actually, let me grab that ground. We finished this here. And one of the brushes that they include, oh, where are is their chalk brush, which I actually really like. So I'm gonna work with that as well. Okay. So let's start tackling this pig. So I'm gonna break it down into the basic shapes. So I'm gonna start with the head and then kind of take you through at least a little bit what the tutorial that I watched was doing. And it's very much, we're just kind of capturing the shape vaguely, and then it's refining in, but there's a mixture of a soft edge brush to capture that shape, and then a texture brush to add a little bit more of a nuanced texture to it. And then they kind of refine the edge with a hard edge brush. So that is what we're going to be doing here. Now I'm gonna put those layers in a group. Make a new layer here. Switch back to the brush pack. Like I said, I want to challenge myself with working with brushes that maybe I normally wouldn't work with. What's weird though is their soft edge brush is so, like, you have to really push down on it to get something going. So I think their soft edge brush I'm not a big fan of. I'm gonna switch to my soft edge brush at least just to get the base down, but then I'll switch to their chalk brush and then their hard edge brush and then their blending brush that they have. Okay, so let's see here. So this pig head is fairly big. And I'm using just the neutral color of it. This could be called the local color if there was no lighting. And local color basically means if there was no lighting in the scene, what color would that object be? Let me make that a little bigger. Okay, so this is where it gets a little weird. When I was learning to digital paint, you very much would, grab each of the colors and lay them on individually, and you'd build up your shading and whatnot in your technique. But in the way that I was watching is you kind of, like in this instance, this ear that's facing or closer to us, just ignore that completely for the time being. And we're just trying to get the orb of the head at the moment. So essentially, I'm going to lock in that layer so that I can only paint within it. And then essentially, I'm just going to lay down the colors from around the globe. And then what's crazy is they will then go in with like a texture brush, and then they'll lay that down a little harder. And then after that, they'll clean up the edge. So I'm doing everything in my power to ignore the fact that we have a pretty blurry edge at the moment. And then, like I said, I'm ignoring that there should be an ear right here, which is also bizarre to me. So kind of like that. Oh, sorry, I didn't even realize. My comments didn't update until now. I am so sorry. I've been missing so much. Hey, Barbara. Hello, hello. Hello, Buellstar. Hello, Felix. How are you doing? You're probably stressing a little bit because I know you got your con coming up very soon. Bartek, I'm so happy that you're doing it as I'm trying to do digital, and so far I've been doing it like a sketchbook, so it'll help a lot. Yes, like I said, there's so many new ways of doing digital nowadays, and I gotta reteach myself, and then I'll be better at being able to teach you guys, and when we do more of these live streams, I'll be way faster, or at least that's the goal right now. Oh, well then, hello, Hannah Dirks. Hello, hello. Let's see, Elena, I am working on not over-rendering my paintings with colored pencils. With this painting, I've decided to not touch the back petals with the pencils at all to hopefully create more depth. I like how you wrote death, but I think you meant depth. Yes, I mean, that can usually take a little bit of work. Traditional building value takes a long time, but like, that's why digital, I think I want to explore it more, just because I've done pencil for so long that like starting a new piece can be very daunting. Or then the idea of like doing a digital piece, like something like this today, it sounds more fun. Sounds like, oh, I can quickly just render out this pig sculpture and it'll be fun practice. Where if I was doing this traditionally, this would take way longer. Okay, so let me grab their chalk brush. Now, you can find chalk brushes, like everyone has a chalk brush it seems. But I'm gonna try working with theirs specifically. Oh, is this my eraser tool? Oop, gotta change back. Okay, so now it's a little blurry. I can then add in a little texture just to ground it in reality a bit more. Because right now it's just this very blurry, out of focus orb. And the texture always helps give it a bit more of a quality to it that I like. Now, I'm also ignoring the nose. Weird, right? But you'll understand why I'm doing that. At least I hope I understand why I'm doing that, but that was part of what the tutorial was saying is ignore secondary shapes, really only focus on primary shapes right now. What is kind of fun about locking in the layer is I can push right up against that edge, and I don't have to worry too much. And even with like these stronger highlighted areas, I can push that too. Okay, so now I feel pretty good about this. I'm gonna take my eraser tool. I'm not gonna do it with a chalk brush, so I'm gonna do it with a hard edge brush. And I'm gonna unlock it, and then literally, oh, this is a brush that has a texture on it. Let me grab a normal brush. Is this a normal brush? Are you a normal brush? Yes. What the? There we go. Jeez. Raul says, so glad to catch one of these again. I just started getting into digital art myself and was running into similar issues. Too realistic, ended up airbrushed. Hope to use your tips today. Now, mind you, like I had mentioned though, I'm also trying to relearn digital, so take everything I say with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I'm just following a lot of what I've seen on social media and YouTube as like my tips, kind of like a general path to follow. But I hope that you find it useful. You know, I don't like this hard edge brush either. Let me find, let's see if this one, does this one have a texture? Oh, this one's better. That one art guy, the way I'm going about digital is using it as a tool to flesh out details and color palette before going traditionally. Yes, I do have a lot of friends that do that as well. And I know I use Procreate as like a sketching tool, like a thumbnailing tool, just because it's so much faster and you can really correct errors on the go. And I always have this talk, so I want it to be out there before I get too far into this. I respect digital artists quite a bit. I think it's very silly though to not acknowledge that there are a lot of shortcuts digitally that you can't get traditionally, and that does not make one better than the other. So I feel like, especially back in the day, there used to be such an uproar about digital versus traditional artists and how they like don't get along or they judge each other unfairly, and I don't want to be considered part of that group. Let's see here. So then, now that I have the edge kind of erased to a nice clean edge, that's where I can take these brushes and really push against that edge without worrying about going outside the line. Now the next step is where it gets, for me at least, a little crazy. This is where I'm very much not used to it, and I want to teach myself to get better at this, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna add in that ear that's missing there, right? So I'm gonna make a new layer, and I'm literally gonna grab the dark part of the ear, so the triangle kind of, and I'm just gonna give a rough shape to this ear. I think also I would either be using the selection tool, which I said, once again, I'll probably work on another video where I try to work more with the selection tool. For now, I'm gonna kind of paint it in. But I feel like the next generation, they're all about efficiency, and them watching me right now, I'm sure they're like, oh, that's not efficient. Nope, that's not efficient. So those are the tools that I'm trying to work with and learn. You know, I might just make that a little bigger. Okay, so now what I think I'm supposed to do is lock that layer in, so I can't go outside of the triangle that we just created, and then literally just add in the colors without worrying about going outside the line. Actually, it's almost recommended to push close to the edge to like really solidify that color that you're adding in. And on the back of the ear, it's a little brighter. And then it has kind of a highlight going on. I'm trying not to work on the like secondary details because like for me I'm like, oh, we can add in the little light that would be catching just the edge of some of the clay there. But I'm trying not to do that yet. And the other challenge I'm doing is not to zoom in either. So now from here, you can see it has that blue edge. It's like light purple kind of color. And because the triangle from the ear is locked in, where I can't paint outside of it, you can literally just push that blue right up against that edge. And now what's crazy, or not crazy, but what's nice is if I choose the head layer again, I can choose this darker gray color and paint right underneath to like really emphasize that that ear is overlapping on that head. Something like that. And it actually kind of has a little bounce light underneath here. See how that's coming along? So now let's do the same thing to the other ear and then we'll get into the snout. So because the other ear is kind of behind the head, I'm gonna make a new layer underneath the head layer. Oh, you know what? I might make a bunch of new layers so you can see what I'm doing. There you go. Now you can see my layer panel. So this layer here, this is the head layer. This is the ear, and then this is the, I guess his right ear. I should say left ear. I normally don't name my layers, but I'm trying to be organized so that I'm going to make this available to download for my Patreon backers after if they want to check it out. So now that background, I actually like having it be a little lighter. So I'm going to switch. And part of the goal of doing stuff like this is I want to get just more comfortable of being in the zone. So I don't have to think as much while I'm doing it. Because I think that's my biggest downfall with digital right now is because I haven't touched it in so long. I'm like actively thinking while I'm painting, which you don't want to be doing that. Kind of like when I'm working traditional, I call it autopilot. You get to a point in the drawing where you're not even thinking about the conceptual part of it anymore because you're just rendering and you're doing the shading, the value rendering, and things that you've done 100 times before. So then you can kind of zone out and like watch a Netflix documentary or an HBO true crime series in the background. Which I always enjoy getting to that part because I feel like I get to do what I love, but I can also have an entertainment aspect in my life. Recently, though, I've learned I love audiobooks while I'm working. And there was a point in my life where I thought I didn't like it, but then I realized it's just that I feel I don't pay attention as much, which can be true if I'm in like the early stages of the piece. But I'm learning that if I am like past the initial ideation phase, I can definitely listen to a book and paint at the same time. Okay, anyways, I'm creating the shape of the ear in the back here. Oh, I should have, actually, before I get into this, if any of you have good recommendations for art audiobooks specifically, like what is it, Art and Fear, or Fear of Art, and then Ego is the Enemy I've been reading. And I read one about creativity as a habit or something. But if you have any recommendations, I would definitely add them to my Audible listing. Okay, so I have that ear shape behind the head. So once again, I'm going to lock in the layer, and you can do that at the very top of the layer menu. There's like a chessboard or like a checkerboard. If you click that, it basically adds a mask to that layer so that you can't paint outside of that layer. So you can see how I can only paint within that ear. So then I can once again color grab from the reference and then paint that kind of bluer side of the ear, then get even some of that edge where it has a little bit more of that highlight. And because the clay is slightly bumpy and kind of put on not super smooth, I like the brush having a little of the inconsistency with where it goes down. And then I'm going to unlink it because I'm like, that ear is a little too long for what I like. Erase some of it, re-lock it, and then push it back in. Like that. So, like I said, this is a very weird way of working for me because I am not used to like separating things in chunks and working them on different layers. I'm one of those people who used to digital paint where it'd all be on one layer essentially. Like maybe there would be like foreground elements that would be on a separate layer, but for the most part, I did treat it like a traditional painting, and that was very comfortable for me. And doing it this way is challenging, to say the least. So I'm going to make a new layer for the snout, and essentially I'm going to paint right where that should go. And while I'm doing that, let me look for another comment here. Elena, the pig statue is just so adorable, I want one. Yeah, I got this one at Lightbox last year, and I fell in love with it. I mean, I've been a big fan of Tonko House and the studio and what they've made for, like, I want to say 8-9 years now. It's been a long time. And the Dam Keeper was definitely one of my favorite things that I saw at the time, because they wanted to make a short film that looked like it was all painted by hand. And they didn't, at that time, there was no AI, so they couldn't use that tool, thank God. But they took on the challenge, and they decided to digitally paint every frame to look like a chalk painting. And I thought they did a really good job. I'm pretty sure you can watch it somewhere online. I know I had to buy mine, but if you can find it, even better. Felix says, I think you should maybe challenge yourself a bit and not color pick the ref. A lot of what Yu Ming Lee does is deliberate value compressions, which you don't do just by picking the color. Totally agree, but I feel like I can only take on one challenge at a time today. We just found out some kind of bad news this morning, so I'm like, I'm trying not to think about that at the same time do this stream. But I do agree with you. If you're doing studies, I do agree that normally you shouldn't be color picking. But for me, my challenge isn't necessarily on color per se. I mean, you're right. I should be doing both at the same time. But I think because I still feel so almost brand new, weirdly, to digital, I almost want to feel more comfortable doing this first, and then I could go back into the more advanced way of doing studies. Or maybe that should be this challenge next week. Actually, Felix, maybe you're right. Maybe that's what I'll do next week then. What am I doing? Hold on. I forgot. Instead of doing the front of the snout first, which sounds like a fun idea, let me erase that. I'm going to do the side of the snout first. And I'm going to first do the soft edge brush. I think because I'm so used to using texture all the time too, it's weird using a soft edge brush so predominantly again. Because back in college, this was kind of seen as like a no-no. It was very weird back in the day. It was a lot of hard edge brush and like building it up slowly from dark to light, which weirdly is the opposite of how you do makeup for like VFX, where you go from light to dark. So the way that I learned digital, I feel like, is just not practical as much as it used to be. Okay, so then now I can switch to the chalk brush. Now I can give some texture to those transitions. And then I can do the front here. See how it just creates a nice kind of cut into it, so it looks like it sliced right through that clay, and it's just reflecting that color back. And I like how that looks. Let me lock that back in to get a little of this highlight underneath. Isn't that weird? It's like we're creating these digital forms, or these forms separate of one another, but they look like they connect to one another. Very strange. And then what will really add the pop here is that little highlight on the top of that snout. Even that could be a little lighter here. Okay, so I'm gonna merge that snout into the head layer because I want to add in this transition light. I'm also gonna not zoom in. I'm gonna stay true to that challenge at least. And then give some of that light blue shine up here too. I mean, it feels good doing studies again. I felt like I did learn a lot back in the day when I would do these all the time. I just feel like they help you see better, and I feel like a lot of digital art was training your eye and your like hand-eye coordination and your kind of memory with like what tools or what settings that are available to you digitally that would be like the best to use in this scenario. Yeah, he kind of has a nice bounce light under here too. Kind of like that. Man, it's almost easier for me to look at the second monitor for the color pick in here. And then I noticed, let me unlock that. So this is where like the beauty of digital comes in hand. I feel like his head, I squished a little bit in the back. So it's so easy just to pull that into liquify really quick, extend it out, and bam. You know, it's the edit is made, the fix is there. Elena says, or wait, yes, mandatory literature major mass book recommendations. Frankenstein, Last One at the Party, Watchmaker of Filigree Street, and Murder on the Orient Express. I haven't read any of those specifically. I know Frankenstein I do want to read at some point just because I feel like it's the origin of horror in some degree. What is that? Mary Shelley, I believe, is the author. Like, I know a lot about it. I just haven't read it personally. But weirdly, I feel like I have this weird thing with nonfiction. It's very difficult for me to want to read nonfiction. And I'm hoping that changes eventually. But I've been having such a good time with these, it's hard for me to read fiction books. I've been having such a good time with nonfiction that I don't know if I would get the same joy. I mean, I hope so. One day, I just gotta force myself one day to read a nonfiction. Or a fiction. Oh my god, I keep getting it mixed up. But I think I do read manga. So like right now I'm reading Berserk and Witch Hat. I kind of have both of them on a slight pause because I have so much on my plate. But I'm hoping I'll eventually get back into them. Little pig hole there for the eyes, and then we gotta do 2 for the snout. I actually like that there's a little bit of like clay stuck in this nostril, so I'm gonna leave that in there then. Now on the head layer, I'm gonna grab that highlight color, and I'm just gonna give just the faintest highlight right under each of the nostrils. And then just a little bit on the eye. Just so that these holes feel a little more kind of set in that clay there. Something like that. And then eventually, I feel like I do need even a heavier texture brush just to push these all together. You know what? I feel like this eye should be moved over. Like that. Okay. Kind of want to add a little bit more of a highlight back here too. So something kind of fun that the artists that I followed their tutorial of is they would pull out their smudge brush from time to time. And like, this is very weird for me too. I think they used their oil blend. This one. How does that work? Oh. Okay, how does the soft blend look? Oh, interesting. Weird. I mean, I kind of like that. I mean, the blend tool is something that I don't even believe it existed when I went to school to learn digital art. So this is all kind of new to me. Weird how that works. I know I've played with one of the brushes at some point after I graduated. I feel like I barely explored it, where it might be more fun to try it out again. Okay, so then next here, let's start on his body. So kind of in the same way. Oop, let me erase that there. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna make a body layer. And okay, we're gonna try a different technique here. I'm gonna try just using the chalk brush instead of the soft edge brush and to see the difference in how that felt. Now, I'm definitely a fan of texture brushes when I digital painted back in the day. So I feel like I naturally gravitate towards wanting to use them. I don't know what that means necessarily as I get back into it next year, but I do like this chalk brush quite a bit. I created my own back when I worked at CG Cookie, and it's still nice, but I want to try a bunch of new brushes just to get a feel of, you know, working different than what I was used to. Okay, let's try kind of doing the same thing we were doing for the head now. I'm going to lock in that layer. I'm going to pull in. Actually, first, I'm going to work on that darker apron area, or his t-shirt, and then do the overalls on top. Now, even this, potentially, I guess, could be done on different layers, depending on how neurotic I wanted to be for today, but I'll just keep it on the same layer. Actually, no, I'm going to keep it on. I'm going to do separate layers. So then this little button part of the overall, actually, this side is definitely way more brown. Okay, so now on these areas, I'm going to lock that in and paint over. This is so weird, you guys. Digital is such a different mindset than working traditionally for me. actually get some of that bounce light underneath. Now, mind you, there is so much beautiful texture going on that I feel like at the very end I might have to throw down some pretty heavy texture brushes. Let's see here. I like how different the colors on both sides are, even though sculpturally, essentially they're the same, but because of the lighting, they're so different. Yeah, something like that. Strange. Let's see here. One art guy, it's likely that you preferred texture brushes because they remind you of working traditionally, which naturally has a lot of texture, like graphite and charcoal. Very true. I could definitely see that being why. And there's something about, I don't know, I've always just really enjoyed texture in art in general. Okay, so now let's create his overalls. Oops, did not lock that in. Let's lock in the layer first. There we go. And the body is similar to the head in the way that it's reflecting. I can see why it might be easier to do a soft edge brush first, because it kind of lays down like a good base to then build up from. So maybe that's something that I'll still stick with as we move forward with this digital. Because all the while I'm doing this, I'm trying to figure out like what part of this process do I like, what ones do I want to keep with me, what ones do I want to change and possibly adapt. Because I'm sure as a lot of you know, it's like even if you follow like your favorite artist's tutorial on how to paint something, there's just going to be things that don't resonate with you as much. And that's kind of the point. You're not supposed to just be clones of whatever they do and whatever their process is. You can definitely take a lot of notes and a lot of pointers from them, but you want to find your own voice through it. So I'm not doing the pocket just yet. You know what I did notice though? His body is definitely does not go out that far. This cute little poker or porker body. Okay. I think I'm gonna add in that little pocket now. So on a new layer. Actually, on his body layer, I'm gonna draw that darker area first. Okay, now let's draw that pocket. And weirdly, we're gonna do that same thing, lock it in. What's weird is the pocket definitely has more of a roughness to it. So it's kind of reflecting light at different angles. And his body actually has more of the lighter ones from that bounce light underneath. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do his left arm and the little backpack you see first. And once again, I'm gonna do that underneath the body layer. So I'm gonna grab the strap first, lock it in, grab that lighter color, and build it down. So strange how easy that is. Make another layer under that to create his sleeve. Actually, the strap, I'm gonna just take my hard edge eraser, give it a nice clean edge, lock that back in, and then grab that very light white almost color and just edge it out, just to really emphasize the light coming from that direction. And then the sleeve kind of comes out a little bit. That, lock it in. I feel like you're going to hear me say that a lot today. And then paint on top. Yeah, crazy. And then lastly, make one final layer, and then this is going to be his arm. It's funny, I can feel myself reverting to my old habits, like even outlining the arm first and then filling it in, even though I know the new way is kind of blocking it out either with a selection tool or just block it out really large and strongly and then use my eraser tool and cut it in. Gotta force that, or gotta break that force of habit. Grab some of these lighter browns here to fill in the side of the arm. That. There we go. And then I'm going to merge those three together so that that whole arm and that backpack side is just one layer. Now it's funny, looking at my other screen, I can definitely tell the proportions are just a little off. But once again, beauty of digital here. It's like his left ear. I feel like should be a little more curvy. Oh, I gotta turn off the lock first. That's what that notification was for. curve it down. Yeah. Oh, I know what he needs. He needs a little eyebrow. Hold on. Where's his face layer? Like, he looks weird. That's why. I mean, I definitely think he needs some texture at the end, but at least for now, he can have an expression. Just a happy little pig. I'm going to take those lighter colors, kind of push the fact that the clay was like pushed in. It almost looks like it was pushed in with like a toothpick or something. Okay, a little better. Now at least he has an expression here. One art guy says, I'm discovering that the style you develop needs to take what you want to do in consideration. I want to create a whole fantasy world, so absolute time-consuming realism is out of the table. Unless you dedicated like your whole life to it, yes, that would be a very extensive project. I don't want to say you should for sure change your course of action. Like if you really want to do a pure realism fantasy scenario, I don't want you to give up on it, but it is good to be realistic with time management. Be like, okay, how long would this actually take me? And do I think I could get this done in like a reasonable time? Because I think that's my biggest issue with my graphic novel I want to do, is it did have a little bit of a semi-realism, but it was all pencil. And the amount of work that would go into it is kind of nutso, while also trying to make a tarot deck, finish this 5-foot mermaid drawing, and all the other things. So I kind of feel you on that, where it's like, okay, I need to be realistic about time management. Is this something I can get done in a reasonable time? If the answer is no, okay, let's change that action. Let's change course a little bit. His head is too big. Hold on, it's got to cut down. What in the world layer is this? There's the head layer. Oh yeah, the one that's labeled head. So what's nice about this too is I can then take that arm, oh, that's weird. Wait. Why is that showing like that? Oh, did it again. So if you liquefy, or in this case, I try to erase the head while that layer is still locked, it'll just turn black. So you need to make sure that lock is off first, and then you can erase it. All right, let's relock that for a second. Okay. So now I can go back to this one. Actually, rather than even liquefying it, I'm just going to push it straight up. There we go. Okay. Now the detour is over. Now I can get back to this. Also, I'm very excited. Final Fantasy 16 comes out tomorrow. I'm definitely a big Final Fantasy fan, and the demo kind of changed my mind on it. I was not super excited about it. I thought the trailers looked a little iffy here and there, and then I played that demo and I was like, okay, I think I'm on board. I think you got me, Squeenix. And let's add that little highlight to give it that nice crispness here. And then his backpack kind of has like a secondary little, I don't know if it's like a button or something, so I'm just going to add that in too. So I'm just going to make one more layer underneath, do a very, very small little button shape, and then add a highlight on that as well. All right. Let's see here. Felix, maybe you can try a study where you do that lasso tool selection thing with the bucket or really big brushes. Yes, that's my next goal. I want to watch some tutorials. I have a few artists that do that style predominantly, and I feel like that would be good for me to watch how they do it, because that to me is like foreign. The idea of like using a selection tool primarily to create shapes and stuff, very weird. But obviously I see the results, I see it working for them, and they're able to create like big fantasy paintings in just a few hours. And when I was doing my swordplay illustrations back in the day, they would take more than just a few hours, we'll just say. And I think it's because of my focus wasn't on efficiency. I was so focused on if I thought it looked good or not, that everything had to look a specific way. And by doing that, I actually think I hurt the efficiency of it. So yeah, maybe that'll be next week's challenge. Okay, so I'm gonna do his arm. He's holding a compass that's like open. I'm gonna do the arm first, and then do the compass. So just like how we've been doing everything else, I'm gonna grab these colors, lay them right on. I mean, it's very weird. It's like breaking down the visual process of recreating it almost into like a science. And I don't hate that. I know for some people it's like, oh, if it becomes too mathematical or it's too methodical, it like takes away from the art making process. And it could, depending on how you treat it. But I'm trying to have like a nice balance in between where I'm having fun, but I'm also being super efficient, because I am sick and tired of taking like 40 plus hours on every piece that I do. Because there are moments where I'm like, I don't even know if I'm adding anything necessarily to the piece. I think I'm just detailing for detailing's sake, and that never feels good, because then it's like you're not adding anything, and you're not like adding any pizzazz. The only thing you're adding is like, oh, this is impressive because he clearly took more time on it. And I think I've relied on that for too long, if I was being honest with myself. And I want to change that. I want to create pieces that, you know, have a mood or an impact behind it besides just, oh, there's a technical ability there, or oh, that definitely looks like a lot of time was spent on it. Okay, so that's his hand without the compass. So now I'm going to go in, make a new layer, and we're going to create the shape of this compass. So it like goes up. There's a little butterfly clip in the middle. I definitely feel like I made his hand too stumpy. Maybe let's push that out. I think this would be another instance of where the selection tool would be used instead of this, where I'm like painting it on, essentially. Okay, so I'm gonna lock that in, and then just like we've been doing everything else, I'm gonna paint on different texture, or the different values and colors here. I mean, lighting is a game changer when it comes to making things look fully realized or not. Let's see here. Bartek says your stream with Quiet Mona Lisa by Dominic Fike in the background is really relaxing. Is it oh, is he the actor from Euphoria? I have not listened to the Mona Lisa song, but I'm glad that's relaxing for you. I know, I think that's the reason I don't have audio in my background whenever I stream, but I notice a lot of streamers do that nowadays, so I'm like, should I just have some like very standard basic background song just to fill in the empty space in between when I'm not talking and when I'm talking? Actually, this goes out a little further than I initially gave it. What we're gonna do, we're gonna literally pull out, as this is arm layer. Another beauty of digital is you can just extend things really quickly. If I need to move them, we can. And then that compass, push over a little bit more too. There we go. And you know what? On his arm, I'm going to make underneath where the compass is even darker. Yeah, something like that. Okay. And then we got his little feet and then the stand. And then I'm going to kind of go through and give it a little bit more texture, I think, or some more finesse. So then obviously, because his legs are underneath of that body of his, I'm going to just push these little triangular stumps, or cylindrical stumps, I should say. Right there. And there. And kind of like what we've been doing for everything else. Actually, you know what? Perfect time. I'm going to try the selection tool here. So, let's see here. So it would be down. I don't know if it's just because people feel it's more intentional. I feel like there's more pressure when doing the selection tool. Oof. Weird. Yeah, that's definitely something I would want to practice more, we'll say. It's a little nerve-wracking. I feel like it has to be like the perfect shape. I mean, I know it can be edited, especially in post because it's digital. Like you can liquefy and do things, but okay, give value to him in this area, just like we've been doing everything else. Nice little highlight. And then same for this leg. Oh, this one's a little easier because it's more of like a blue wraparound. That's very dark here. And this will look weird until we have the base. When the base is in, it'll feel more set in. I feel like he does have a nice little cute highlight on this foot too. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So then last but not least, what's this layer? The arm. Okay, so then this will be his stand. All right, you know what? Once again, let's try the selection tool. So it kind of starts here, juts out. Oh, this is so weird. That is so weird. I definitely don't think I'm used to that, and it will definitely take some time to get used to that. I mean, thankfully you can do little edits after, which I guess is kind of like the safeguard of doing a selection tool. Oh, that underneath shadow though is so off now. This is my problem of having too many layers. There it is. So I can move that to more like there. We'll come back to the little desk after. We're gonna take a stab at the stand here. So underneath his feet, there's a shadow that comes like straight out. Actually, there's a few things going on here. Got a few different light sources and directions. Oop. Lock in that layer. Now, because the base is so rough with texture, I'm going to kind of simplify it first, and then when I do more of the final edit, kind of rendering everywhere, then I'll add in these little pockets of detail. Yeah, the stand alone has so many colors going in on it. You know what? I'm gonna make a new layer because where this kind of lighter white color is, you know, like highlight almost, it comes through. And then literally, I'm going to take my eraser tool and just edge it out. Might do the same back here, actually. Because then you have like a brief kind of warmer orange color right underneath. Then you also have this little pocket of light here. Let's see here. One art guy says, "Oh, I'm fully dedicating my life to this project. This is my Middle Earth, my Westeros, my Sesame Street." Well, I'm wishing you the best. I love when people put everything into a personal project, especially if you're like guns blazing about it. I love that because I think that's where you do see the passion projects like stand the test of time, like the ones that you mentioned, especially Sesame Street. Felix, I feel that. I feel like my ability to finish and render a piece can sometimes be a crutch. People who can make something in 2 hours and call it done have something special going on. I definitely do not share in that field. I definitely take... My friends think I'm a fast artist. I do not consider myself a fast artist. So I'm with you, Felix. I look at when artists can do things efficiently, and I'm like, yes, I can get to the finish line in like a similar manner, but it takes me so long to get to the finish line. I almost feel like I'm doing a marathon with like a potato sack on, where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but we're both getting somewhat to the same finish line, but you can do so while basically running. And some people, it feels like they're literally driving in a car, and you're like, how do you get here so fast? They're like, oh, I just drove here. Like, what did you do? And like, you look down at your potato sack, and you're like, you did it my way. And I've felt that a lot the past year-ish. I definitely feel like I've put more reliance on the fact that I can get to the finish line rather than learning techniques that will make my process more efficient so I can do more. Okay, so now from the stand, I'm gonna just revamp a little underneath. I'm just gonna call this one shadow. So I'm gonna zoom in out even further to like really try to capture it. So we got that blue that comes up here. Something like this. Yeah, I feel like that looks pretty decent of a shadow. Maybe this is where perfect time to try out the smudge tool, because I kind of like what's going on, but I want it to not be, ooh, that really smudges it. Okay, okay. I see. And then maybe we can come back and like give it really nice. Oh, this is the texture brush. Are you a normal brush? You're a normal brush. What is going on down here? Oh, this is actually a perfect time for a selection tool. So this is what I see a lot of artists do too. So like if I was creating this edge of the shadow, we'll say something like that, I then would come back in. Let's do a soft edge. Does this have a texture on it? No, it does not. And then literally I would fill in that space. Now, like I said, this is not intuitive for me because in my mind I'm like, oh, I'll just paint around the edge, when, you know, a modern artist would look at me and be like, you can literally just paint that in. Like, what are you doing? Let's see how that looks then. Yeah, see how that like defined it? What is this little dot over there? Okay. So let's see, what do I want to do from here? I might add a little bit more to that background. Kind of like some of it being that lighter color. Oh, maybe I can experiment with some of the brushes. Let's see what this brush does. Kind of like this brush, actually. Maybe we'll smudge it just a bit, so it's not like as crisp. What in the world? Oh, you can't smudge it if it's a... I see. What is that? Oh, I still have some erase lines from the head. I was like, what is that? Let me get rid of that completely. Oh, and I guess I should have mentioned at the beginning, I always work on a gray, like a neutral gray background, because it helps see the colors more truly. Ah, there you are. It's weird. Some of these have like a different opacity set on them too. I don't know if I like that necessarily. What the heck? I'm so confused. Let me grab one of my normal brushes. I just want it to be a little darker right there. I guess that kind of works. And maybe on this edge, a little brighter. So anyways, while I'm gonna go in and do some of the detail work, how much time do I have left? I have like another half hour-ish. Actually, we're making good time. We're able to do this whole pig in an hour and a half. Digitally, which obviously is not my comfort zone, but you gotta sometimes step outside your comfort zone if you want to improve. Oh, I kind of like that actually. Little fade out. Should I do it down here too? Whew. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna start trying to add some of these like rougher texture details here. So maybe I'll make a layer just called details. And I'm gonna do how I used to work a little bit more on these areas. So I'm gonna take my, actually I can take the chalk brush that I made. And I'm just gonna go through and try to add more of these details. Because I want to see if I can combine these new techniques with some of the techniques from the past that I actually do like. And definitely for some of these areas, I feel like I just really got to go in and add these crevices where like the shadows are deep enough where the light's not capturing inside of them. So I'll start kind of in this area and then work my way down. Jen says, 16 makes me think Final Fantasy is going to be like Resident Evil with a good game that every once in a while blows life into the franchise before it dies on life support. We'll see. You know, I didn't have a lot of faith in 16 when I first saw the trailer, and I've mentioned this a few times in the past, but Final Fantasy VII Remake, I thought the gameplay was so good, and I was like, okay, Squeenix, I see you. And then I'm telling you, that demo last week when I played it, it really changed my opinion. I'm sold. I can't wait. I know it technically comes out at midnight here, but I'm gonna wait until later tomorrow to actually get started. Josh and I are looking at another wedding venue, or we're kind of confirming what we already like, but it's about 2 hours away, so we gotta go there in the morning with my parents, and then come back, and then I can finally indulge in the next Final Fantasy game. Jen says, oh wait, Darwin, hi Vaughn, I'm glad I finally catch one of your streams. We met briefly at ASIN. Hello, hello. Yeah, I loved ASIN. I had such a good time. We even went to the rave. Yeah, ASIN was a blast. Hope you had fun. Hope I left a good impression when we met. Jen says, right now your version looks a little like those surrealistic paintings where the shapes are the point and the background sometimes undefined. Yes, I do like a good depth of field painting, especially for studies. So yeah, I'm going to leave that background blurry. I just don't want these little cuts that I'm putting in just to look like random markings. That'll be my challenge. You know what? Let me try a legit circle brush for this. I feel like I might have better luck with it than a chalk brush. See, now this is where I know I could be more efficient. I just gotta learn or even find brushes that I think would recreate this look that I'm trying to capture. Because right now I don't think I could just make a chalk brush or that I already have and make it bigger and it would just give this impression. I think I have to manually go in. But maybe that's part of the thinking that I need to change as well. It's like, no, there is a way to do this more quickly or more efficiently. I'm just relying on what I know will work, just because, I don't know, maybe I'm too lazy to like look up new techniques, but I'm gonna try to change that. So maybe next week's stream, I'm gonna really try to do like selection tool, which is very, very strange for me. You know what? I'm gonna have some colors up here. This is like my highlights. Speaking of not just color picking, yeah, Felix, this is where I feel better just working with like a color palette. Because color picking, I feel like you are kind of just cheating. Like you're not learning a lot about color. But for this stream, obviously, my focus wasn't in like color theory as much, but I do think it is good practice to always try to see the color and try to pick it out on your own without just grabbing it from the reference. Jen says, obviously that's not going to be the case when finally read this. Well, maybe. I know I'm going to get better at reading the comments doing digital. I might even have Josh join in for some of these again, just so he can read the comments to me. I knew today would be a little bit of a weird stream because I think people don't necessarily come to watch me do digital as much. They're probably like, why? Just why, actually. Just why? Why is he doing that? We'll see. As I hopefully get better over time. This is definitely an easier setup, personally, than traditional, just because with traditional, for some reason, streaming through OBS on this Mac, it just never looks as good as I want it to. And I think with digital, it's so easy to just set up OBS with your Cintiq, and then you just go. Yeah, definitely a lot of these irregularities are helping, I think, create more of that clay surface. I mean, the other big challenge for me on today's stream was to not zoom in at all. So I mean, man, old Tim would have definitely loved to zoom in on some of these edges and just really pushed the refinement. But I realize that's not what I'm trying to do anymore. I'm trying to get efficient. And I remember a lot of what I would learn digitally would help my traditional skills quite a bit. And I think with both traditional and digital, I'm very zoomed in, and I want to zoom out a bit more. And I know traditionally you might be wondering, well, how do you stay zoomed in on a pencil drawing? I think because I get so locked in to like one area at a time, I rarely just hold it back and look at what's working, what's not working. And that's kind of the goal that I want to do moving forward in both digital and traditional, is to like look at it while I'm working on it and look at the overall big picture, not just how defined are these pieces of hair or whatever it is that I'm working on. Let's see here. Vonnart guy. Also, there are 2 books I would recommend for new artists: Form of the Head and Neck Anatomy. Oh, Form of the Head and Neck and Anatomy for Sculptors. I'm going to Google both of these, because a lot of them I have found to be very helpful from your guys' recommendations. I have a neck and anatomy. Oh my gosh, hold on. I have a YouTube video on my favorite art books, and a lot of people left recommendations, and I bought a lot of them. You know what? Sometime this weekend I'll share on my Instagram and Twitter what those books were, because I actually really like them as well. So you guys had some really good recommendations. So now whenever people recommend art books, I like really take that consideration into account. Maybe some more highlight on that ear. Actually, I do feel like these little additions are helping out quite a bit. Because I definitely think it helps give the illusion that this was clay. Because when it was so soft, I think it was a little confusing what the material was. Let's see here. Elena says, I gave up with finishing things quickly a long time ago. Most of my paintings take over 30 hours total. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel like every new drawing I do takes at least 40-ish. Especially tarot. Tarot takes me forever. It's like 60 to 80. And you would think because tarot has like predefined looks and positionings of the characters and everything, I really did think it would be easier for me, but I think it's actually been more challenging because it's like dealing with a pose that I can't let the drawing grow organically, which is my natural way of working. It's like I'm forced to feel confined, and it's a very strange feeling that I've never really had in art. And poor Josh hears me talk about it a lot, where like I'm really proud of what I've done with the tarot set, but I'm also very excited for when I can call it done and move on, because I think it has been bit strenuous, a bit more strenuous than I was initially expecting. Especially because there's 78 cards, so there's still quite a journey left to go. There's some really good highlights on this nose area that I want to accentuate. Barbara says it's weird. I'm a very slow artist, but when it comes to challenges like Mermaidtober or Drawtober, I suddenly manage to speed up. Of course, they are not without preparations, but still. When I focus on one drawing, though, it seems I can drag it on for hours, days, and weeks. Yes. Barbara, I feel like you and I are in a very similar boat. I remember back in the day, I think it was 2015 or 2016, Drawtober didn't exist yet, and me and my friends, specifically Gawky, we did Drawloween at that time, because that's what existed. And I did all 31 days, and it was the first time doing a 31-day challenge. And I remember halfway through, I was definitely feeling the heat, but I was so proud of myself when I finished, and I realized how fast I can go if I needed to. But because it was so strenuous, it almost like pushed me into not wanting to work that fast. And I don't like that. I liked that I was able to finish it, but I don't like that it gave me the sense that I could finish things if I wanted to, but I just choose not to. Like, it almost felt like I've been playing myself this whole time into thinking art takes a specific amount of time, or whenever you do art, it has to be done in a way where it has to have a result that, you know, a lot of it's made up in each of our heads. And the one that mine was telling me was it can't be something done in like a day, or else it can't be that good, because if it was good, it should take more than just a day. And obviously, if you're going for a specific technical challenge, then it might take more than a day. Like if you're doing a 5-foot drawing, obviously it might take more than a day if you're wanting to add a lot of detail, and if there's a specific amount of excess that you're going for. But I think I've tricked myself too much into thinking that I have to spend a lot of time on drawings to make it good, and that's just not true. But I've told myself that for so long that now each of my drawings take 40 to 60 hours, and I can't finish things as quickly as I used to. And I don't think what I'm finishing is that much better than when I was taking 10 to 20 hours on it. I think I've just dug myself into a hole, and I'm trying to dig out. Like, even doing this pig study today is like me very aware that the techniques that I've been doing up until this point aren't serving me like they used to, and something needs to change because I'm losing my mind when it comes to the process. And I think when you do your process for so long, it becomes a little stagnant. And if I look at my art and what I've done, I'm still proud of it. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I dislike what I've been making the past 6 months to a year, but I definitely think I could have done it way faster and in a way that I would have been more proud of. Yeah, do you guys... I think the little additions of all these little like clay imperfections are helping the overall effects. Or is that just... Am I just delusional? Am I convincing myself that this looks better with these little cuts and scrapes? Oh, you know what? Here, I'll turn the layer on and off so you guys can see what it looks like. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, let's see what this looks like. So you can see before and after. Definitely getting a little more of a look. Let's see here. Felix says, I'll allow myself to play some Diablo 4 once I'm done with the con. Yeah, Diablo's been, I have felt so spoiled this year. Has anyone else felt that plays video games? This year has been amazing for video games. And I feel like it keeps getting better. I just saw Nintendo Direct where it showed the Pikmin 4 footage, and then they announced the Mario RPG remake. And that's very exciting for a lot of people. I've never played it before, but I've had a lot of friends over the years tell me that is a game worth playing and something that they hold very high in their recommendations of games they've played. And then obviously Diablo 4, which I didn't think I would enjoy as much as I am. It's dumb fun. I don't know how else to describe it. It's if you have a group of friends, it's just if anyone played Gauntlet Legends back in the day, it's a modern day Gauntlet Legends. And then obviously Final Fantasy 16 comes out today at midnight, kind of tomorrow actually. And then obviously, like I mentioned, Pikmin 4, and then later this year we got Lies of P. Actually, the Mario remake, that comes out this year in November, I believe. And then we still have the Mario Kart passes that keep releasing every so often. I think the next one was announced. It's coming later this summer. Yeah, I feel very spoiled as someone who enjoys video games this year specifically. Felix says, my stuff takes so long. Oh wait, I missed something. Try out a mixer brush, pick something from the same spot but slightly further in the shadow, then apply it in a slightly area. That way you can make the details not super distractingly high contrast, but have it turn with the light. I have no idea what you're talking about. Try out a mixer brush. Okay, we're gonna try, I believe, is this mixer brush? Okay, got the mixer brush. Pick something from the same spot but slightly further in the shadow, then apply it in a, okay, so I assume if I'm gonna pick here, what in the what? How does the mixer brush even work? How about this, Felix? I'm going to watch a tutorial after the stream's over because I feel like I haven't used the mixer brush almost at all. So I feel like I have to inform myself on exactly how to work with it. But I promise I will. And I will hopefully have it be ready for next week's stream where I can be like, Felix, that was a great recommendation. I know exactly what you're talking about now. Hopefully I don't come back and be like, I'm more confused after trying to do research on the mixer brush. But no, there's so many good tutorials on YouTube, I'm sure I can figure it out. Okay, so on the stand, this is where there was a lot of this texture. I feel like I could play up a bit more. Let's see here, where was I? Joshua, tarot is a huge commitment, but very proud of you pulling through with it. Well, thank you, Joshua. I mean, I'm definitely pulling through with it. I want to be the artist who does what they say they're going to do. And I think I just got to get over my bad habit of announcing things too early. I think I get too excited about something and I want to share it. But especially from a lot of the books that I've been reading, it very much reinforces the idea that if you have something that you're excited about don't share it too early, because then you're reaping the reward and some of the dopamine effect that you get from just talking about it without actually having to do anything. And that obviously is a problem for a few reasons, because then it lowers your desire and drive to then do it yourself, like actually do it. And I've definitely experienced that. And I think tarot, if I would have just secretly been working on tarot and then in like 2-3 years when I'm almost finished, announce like, hey, by the way, I've been working on a tarot deck in the background and I have a Kickstarter happening in 6 months. I'm going to start sharing out all the cards I've been doing over the years. I think it would just be more exciting then for people that follow me, that have been, fans for a while. Because now it's like, because I announce it, that's all I hear at conventions, and I can just see like disappointment even when I tell them it'll still be a few years out. And oh boy, has that been a learning lesson for me. So if there's anything I can pass down to you guys, if you want to do art as like a business, if you're doing bigger projects, try to keep it under wraps for as long as you can, and then announce it when you're ready. When you're like 70-80% done, I think that's like a good time to announce it. And I mean, even relating it to like real world scenarios, you know how like a lot of video games are announced way too early, and I think Squeenix has one of the worst reputations with this. And if a game takes like another 5-6 years to come out, it's like that hype dies down. It's just not as fun. You're like not even that excited about it anymore because it feels so overdue. So that is definitely not the resonation I want people to feel with me. Okay, I might come back to this stand at the end. There's so much down here that we could play with. Especially with like these nice little highlight edges and cracks. Actually, maybe I'll do just a couple of those down here. I feel like highlights on like any edges are really fun as a digital artist or as a color artist in general. Yeah, there we go. Maybe add just some of those cracks. And even the little occlusion shadow where the stand is, just resting on that table so it feels more grounded. Like that. Yeah, it feels a little better. Let's see here. Barbara, my tarot is so difficult because I purposely want to keep away from the established imagery. It takes me so much time to come up with original ideas. Oh man, I wish I would have talked to you before you started that, because I'm realizing now, I wish I would have just done an oracle deck, because even though I love tarot, there's a lot of magic in coming up with your own ideas and imagery and like associations and meanings. That as soon as I'm finished with the tarot deck, I'm for sure doing an oracle deck, and I feel like, I just mentioned don't talk about ideas too early, and here I am already talking about something that hasn't even been started or doesn't have anything. Anyways, I'm not going to say too much about it, besides the fact that I like the idea of creating my own, and I wish I could have told you that beforehand, because I think you might have had more fun creating your own imagery and meanings to the work, rather than having to like follow, minor and major arcana meanings, and while all still creating your own style and look to the cards. I think there's a lot of freedom in just doing your own meanings, and unless if you like really like, the tarot meanings, and I do too, so I get that. Yeah, I feel like this pocket could definitely benefit from some of these highlighted areas. It was so flat before. Elena says, I was just waiting for a long while for you to add some of the little itty bitty clay details. Makes him more of a character to me. Yeah, I definitely think this helps out quite a bit. I think it was reading a little flat before. Yeah, I think especially like here it's almost like pure white on this part of the backpack. So there's quite a bit of that sunlight hitting kind of directly on it. So if I add this right, hopefully we'll get some of that extreme highlight texture that's going on here. Oh, that was the other game I wanted to mention. Lies of P also comes out in September. I was like, I know there's another one. And that's, I mean, kind of a FromSoft clone, but if they can do some refining, that one looks pretty fun too. This arm is actually pretty, I like how it looks right now, so I'm not going to do too much to this. Even some down here. Maybe even some, oh yeah, Elden Ring DLC. I would love to see that. Yeah, Elden Ring was fantastic. That totally got me back into just video gaming as a whole. It like made it fun again, because I think it made it challenging again. I think a lot of games have been too easy, and you see a few here and there that are challenging. Like Cuphead was really fun for me. Maybe I'm just not playing the right games. Honestly, I shouldn't be the one complaining. I'm probably just not researching or looking too hard, honestly. But it was really nice playing Elden Ring and feeling challenged and like. I didn't realize that was something I was missing while playing video games. Like, imagine if they made a Pokemon game that was difficult. Like, I think that would be so much fun. I was joking with my friend Sean, Art of Price Online, that they should just name it like Pokemon Millennial, and its target audience is millennials that grew up with the franchise and they still love Pokemon, but they want more of a challenge because a lot of the new games, they feel like they're making it for a very young generation where it's not as enjoyable to play as an adult because it just feels like it's kind of made for babies sometimes. And you don't want to feel like while you're playing that this is not your demographic. And I don't know. A lot of my friends tried some of the new Pokemon games and none of them have had that positive of a response to it. Super intense white there. You know what? I actually like how this is turning out for my first time doing something digital in a really long time. Like a reference study like this. I actually like the results. I was a little nervous going into this. I know Josh is in the other room right now, and I was telling him before I started, I was like, we just got that bad news about a convention that now we can't go to, and I feel like my head's not completely there, and now I have to do a digital thing, which could be a super miss for the live stream. But he was just telling me, he was reassuring that, even if it is bad, that I think, I don't know if he said it today, but I remember talking about how it's good for people to see when artists make mistakes or when they struggle or when they're not at their best, because I think not only does it ground them in humanity, but then it just shows, okay, this isn't working for me. Let's problem solve out of this, or like let's understand that not every day is going to be your day, and not every day is going to be like a masterpiece, which I think I sometimes need as a good reminder, because I think when you garner a following online, I think sometimes you have this, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, this pressure that you put on yourself that's totally it's like you're doing it to yourself, and that pressure I think can just be so bad in the long run. Plus, doing the stream makes me want to do more digital streams as I go into next year. Obviously, maybe not as reference study heavy. Like I would love to do some of my own characters and stuff and go more that direction, but I think for now, and just for a little while, I might do more studies, just trying out new techniques, ones that I'd find online, that kind of thing. And there's some beautiful highlights, even in this forehead. It's very speckled. I love textured highlights. There's a lot going on in this forehead. Okay, I think we're getting to the end of my typical time frame stream. I'm just gonna go for just a hair longer just to finish out some of these details. But if you guys have any last minute questions before I end the stream here, feel free to add them now. And then I will call this one done. Also, it was Josh's birthday on Monday, and we just had a very chill day. He wanted to play Diablo for a bit, and then at night, I was like, oh, we should watch a movie. And there's one that I've been wanting to watch for a while called Beau is Afraid, because I like the director, Ari Aster. He did Midsommar and Hereditary, and I didn't really know what to expect with this movie because I decided not to watch the trailer, and it is bonkers. It is one of the most paranoia, anxiety-filled movies I've ever seen in my life, and I think the first half does a very good job at showing, oh, I forgot, he has a little backpack here. Oh, I forgot something. Okay, we're going to quickly add that in. The first half of the movie basically are put inside of the mind of someone who has extreme paranoia and anxiety. And I think the first half does a really good job of that. I think the second half, it loses its steam and a little bit of its muster. But still, I would say it was like a 7 out of 10 movie. I would definitely recommend it to people that want a very crazy experience, but I don't know if I would recommend it to just anyone on the willy-nilly. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, you should watch this movie, Mom. Like, you would really enjoy it. She would never trust recommendation from me ever again. So yeah, that was fun. And then next week we got the new Wes Anderson movie that I'm very, very excited about. I haven't seen any trailers of that one, like, at all. So I was able to steer clear of that one. But he's definitely in my top 3 favorite directors that are still alive. So I'm very excited to see what he brings with this new movie. I think it's Asteroid City is what it's called. And then I watched all of Black Mirror this past weekend because this is the year of entertainment for me. This has been an amazing year, just in terms of like, getting shows or movies from people I love, producers, directors, whatever it is. And I would say overall, the new Black Mirror season, I wasn't super into it, but I do think the Locke Henry episode specifically is worth it for sure. The first episode I think it's okay, but I do think the Locke Henry episode is, if there was only one I could recommend to people, that would be the one from the new season. I'm not the biggest fan of the supernatural direction they're taking Black Mirror. I know for some people maybe they're enjoying it. I personally love the idea that that's what Black Mirror was based off of because I'm normally not a sci-fi fan, and I feel like this show kind of changed my opinion on that. So the fact that they're going more supernatural, personally I'm not into it, but I can see why maybe some people would be into it. Yeah, not for me. Felix, and apply this slightly. Okay, I'm gonna screenshot your tips here, and then I will definitely try it out. I have a lot of friends that use the mixer brush as well, so clearly there is something there. I just gotta give it a solid try, an earnest try. Okay. Maybe I'll just do a little under his head here, and then I'll call it done. Oh no, and then a little bit on the stand, then I'll call it done. Yeah, something like that. I do feel like the little indent on his head could be maybe even deeper, but I'm not going to futz around too much with that. Like I said, I'm just going to focus on this area, finish off on the stand, and then this little clay study is officially finished. And then for future follow-alongs, I'm going to have anyone that follows along with me submit to the Discord, and then I'll review them live at the end. That's how I used to do a lot of my reviews for streams like this, and I think I want to bring that back. I think I might do ones that are more accessible or like more appetizing for people to want to do, so more like a hand study or anatomy studies of like arms or whatever it might be, because I think everyone enjoys anatomy practice as an artist. I feel like it's just a good, like you can never not enjoy getting better at anatomy if you're someone that likes to draw characters. Yeah, this base is so interesting. Yeah, I'll set a little texture there, and then we're going to call it done. Okay. Well, as I'm finishing up here, thank you so much everyone who came today and joined me on this little excursion into the digital art world. I'll plan on doing another stream next week, Wednesday, same time, same place. And I'm going to try doing more of the selection tool method, as well as do something that might be more like, I might do a hand. I feel like hands are always fun for people to see the process of making and wanting to study. And I think it would be interesting to do selection tool. We'll see. I might change by next week of the subject matter, but I definitely want to try more of these digital practices. But as always, thank you guys so much for coming to these live streams. They definitely help the channel out, and they definitely are nice to be able to talk with you guys, connect for a little bit, hear from what you guys are doing. And yeah. Let me push that there. Okay, I gotta be done, or else I'm gonna keep focusing on this for too long. And I gotta get ready for volleyball. We got Josh's parents coming to see the house. We got things to do. All right. Thank you so much for coming to the live stream, everyone. And like I said, I'll be here next week, Wednesday. And yeah, expect to see my new pencil drawing later tonight. I'll post that on Twitter. Actually, I'll post that on Twitter in like an hour, and then on Instagram later tonight. And then that's it. That's it. I'm just rambling at this point. Okay, take care, everyone. Thanks so much for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next week. All right, bye.